Tonight, we step into a moment where the cold doesn't just cut through your ears, it cuts through fate itself. On March 11th, 1888, over 400 people would freeze to death across the American Northeast. Entire families trapped in tiny apartments with dwindling coal. 15,000 passengers stranded on frozen trains, some for days. Snow drifts so massive they swallowed three-story buildings whole. But inside those homes, in the flickering candlelight, families discovered something remarkable about what it takes to survive when the world outside wants to kill you. Here's how they actually slept through one of the most devastating storms in American history. Hey, if these stories help you sleep, subscribe. Drop your city and time below. I always check. Someone from Germany, someone from Texas, all here at once. Never gets old. Okay, so tonight we're heading back to 1888. But first, get comfortable. I mean it. Fix those pillows. Pull up that blanket, because where we're going, you're going to want to be cozy. Trust me on this one. Your eyes open to darkness. Not the gentle darkness of a country night with stars peeking through curtains. This is the thick, heavy darkness of a Manhattan tenement building in late winter. 5 stories of brick and desperation stacked on top of each other, and you're somewhere in the middle. The first thing you notice is the cold. It seeped through the thin walls while you slept, and now it's pressing against your face like a damp cloth. Your breath makes little clouds in front of you, barely visible in the gray light filtering through the frost-crusted window. You're not alone in this bed. 3 children are piled around you on a mattress stuffed with horsehair that's gone lumpy in all the wrong places. Your youngest, just 4 years old, is curled against your side with her thumb in her mouth. Your 2 boys, 7 and 9, are tangled together at the foot of the bed. Their wool stockings still on because you never let them take those off in winter. The bed frame is iron, cold to the touch, but the feather tick beneath you holds some warmth, barely. Your name is Helena Muller. You're 32 years old. You came to America from Bavaria 7 years ago with your husband Friedrich, chasing the same dream that brought 12 million other immigrants through these streets. A better life, a chance, something more than the poverty you'd known in the old country. What you found instead was this: a 2-room apartment in a tenement on Orchard Street. 325 square FT for a family of 5. The kitchen has a coal-burning stove that doubles as your only heat source. The bedroom has this bed, a small dresser with a cracked mirror and pegs on the wall for hanging clothes. That's it. That's everything. But right now, on the morning of March 11th, 1888, you don't know what's coming. Nobody does. The Weather Bureau hasn't issued any warnings. The newspapers haven't printed any alerts. Meteorology in 1888 is basically just a guy looking at the sky and making his best guess. And his best guess today is wrong. You push yourself up carefully, trying not to wake the children. The floorboards are cold through your stockings as you pad toward the kitchen. The stove needs stoking. It always needs stoking. A single load of coal can burn for about 6 hours if you manage the dampers just right. But you've been sleeping for 8 and the fire has gone cold. You kneel in front of the stove, open the door, and W's at the pile of ash inside. Cold dust coats everything in this apartment. Your hands, the walls, the food sometimes if you're not careful. It gets into your lungs and makes you cough in the night. But coal is life in a New York winter. Without it, you freeze. You reach for the cold scuttle. It's lighter than it should be. That's when you feel the first real tendril of worry curl through your chest. You're supposed to get more cold today. Friedrich was going to pick some up after work. But the scuttle is maybe a third full, and winters in New York are unpredictable. Still, the morning of March 11th is actually pleasant. You realize this as you get the fire started again and shuffle to the window to scrape away some of the frost. The street below is coming alive. Merchants opening their shops. Children heading to school, laughing, throwing snowballs from the dirty piles left over from last week's small storm. Horse-drawn carriages clattering over cobblestones. It's mild for March, almost spring-like. The temperature feels like it might be in the 40s, which is practically balmy after the winter you've had. You allow yourself a small smile. Maybe today will be a good day. Behind you, the children are stirring. Little Greta calls for you in that sleepy voice that still makes your heart squeeze even after 4 years. The boys are already arguing about something. The apartment fills with the sounds of morning, and you move through your routine like you've done 1,000 times before. Oatmeal on the stove. Water from the pump in the hallway shared with 20 other families on your floor. The line isn't too long this morning. Mrs. O. Brian from down the hall nods at you and mentions that her husband saw some snow in the forecast. Maybe tonight. Snow. You shrug. Snow happens in March. You're not worried about snow. Here's the thing about the great blizzard of 1888. that makes it so terrifying. It wasn't just the snow, it wasn't just the wind. It was the complete and utter lack of warning, combined with the arrogance of a city that thought it had conquered nature. New York in 1888 is the commercial and financial capital of America. Over 1 million people live crammed into Manhattan alone. But on the morning of March 11th, nobody knows any of this. The Weather Bureau forecast for New York calls for partly cloudy, skies with possible light rain. They're off by approximately everything. Friedrich leaves for work at 7 in the morning. He kisses your cheek, ruffles the boy's hair, pretends to steal Greta's nose, which makes her giggle. He works at a garment factory on the Lower East Side, about a 20-minute walk from your tenement. Sometimes he takes the elevated train if the weather is bad. But today seems nice enough for walking. You watch him go through the window, his broad shoulders, disappearing into the crowd of workers, heading toward the factories. He's a good man, your Friedrich. He works 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, and brings home enough money to keep you all fed and housed. Barely, but enough. The morning passes quickly. You do laundry in a massive pot on the stove. The steam fills the apartment, mixing with the smell of coal smoke and the onions you're frying for lunch. Greta plays with a doll made of rags. The boys have gone to school. Protestant Public School number 5 on East 4th Street, about 8 blocks away. By noon, you notice the first change. The light through the window has shifted. It's gotten darker, grayer, though it's only midday. You wipe your hands on your apron and press your face to the glass. The sky looks wrong. It's hard to explain, but there's a heaviness to it, a pressure. The clouds are thick and moving fast, rolling in from the west like an army advancing. You've lived through plenty of storms, but something about this feels different. At 2 in the afternoon, the rain starts. It comes down hard at first, soaking the streets, sending the merchants scrambling to cover their goods. People run for doorways and awnings. Within an hour, the temperature drops 10 degrees. The rain starts mixing with sleet. By 3:30, it's full snow, but not like any snow you've seen before. The flakes are tiny, almost like ice needles. They don't drift down gently the way snow usually does. They shoot sideways, driven by winds that seem to come from everywhere at once. Within minutes, you can barely see across the street. The boys should be home by now. School lets out at 3. Where are the boys? You go to the window again and again, pressing your face to the increasingly ice-covered glass. The streets are emptying fast. People are running, slipping, falling. The snow is already ankle-deep and accumulating faster than should be possible. Later, they'll calculate that it was falling at 4 an hour. At the time, all you know is that your children are out there somewhere. At 4:15, the door bangs open and your boys stumble in, covered head to toe in snow and ice. Their faces are red, their fingers stiff, and they're both crying. You've never seen them cry from weather before. They're tough kids, New York kids, but they're crying now. The teacher let them go at 3. They tell you between sobs. The walk that usually takes 15 minutes took them over an hour. They couldn't see. They kept getting blown over. At one point, 9-year-old Wilhelm grabbed his brother's hand, and they just stood there, lost, not knowing which way was home, until a man grabbed them both and pointed them down the right street. You strip off their wet clothes and wrap them in every blanket you can find. You put them by the stove, feed them hot soup, and try to stop your own hands from shaking. Friedrich is still out there. The storm is getting worse. The wind is howling now, a sound like nothing you've ever heard. It rattles the windows, shakes the walls. Snow is seeping through gaps in the window frame, piling up on the sill. You stuff rags into every crack you can find. By 6 home, the sun has set, not that you could tell by looking outside. The world beyond your window is a wall of white. The gas street lamps, usually visible from your apartment, have disappeared. So has the building across the street. So has everything. Friedrich doesn't come home. The children are asking where Papa is. You tell them he's probably staying at the factory, which is safer than trying to walk home in this. You tell them he'll be fine. You tell them everything will be fine. You don't know if you believe it. The coal scuttle is getting lower. You've been feeding the stove all afternoon, trying to keep the apartment warm enough for the children to stop shivering. But you're already running through coal faster than planned, and Friedrich was supposed to bring more. At 8, you make a decision. You pull the mattress off the bed frame and drag it into the kitchen, closer to the stove. You gather every blanket, every quilt, every piece of clothing that might provide warmth. You layer them on the mattress. The children are confused but too tired to question it. You pile all 3 of them onto the mattress, then add yourself to the pile. Bodies pressed together, shared warmth. It's how your grandmother survived winters in Bavaria, and it's how you're going to survive this. Greta clings to you. The boys curl around each other like puppies. You pull the quilts up over all four of you, creating a cocoon of body heat and wool in desperation. The wind screams outside. The walls creak. Somewhere down the hall, a baby is crying. But here, under the blankets, with your children's breath warm against your neck, you wait. The stove crackles. The coal burns low. The longest night of your life is just beginning. Outside across the northeastern United States, the temperature is still dropping. It will reach 6 degrees by morning. The wind is gusting to 80. And snowdrifts are already 10 ft high in some places and growing. Over 400 people will die in this storm. Dozens of them will freeze within steps of their own homes, unable to find their doors in the blinding white. Others will die trapped in train cars, on boats, in the streets. So has everything. Friedrich doesn't come home. The children are asking where Papa is. You tell them he's probably staying at the factory, which is safer than trying to walk home in this. You tell them he'll be fine. You tell them everything will be fine. You don't know if you believe it. The coal scuttle is getting lower. You've been feeding the stove all afternoon, trying to keep the apartment warm enough for the children to stop shivering. But you're already running through coal faster than planned, and Friedrich was supposed to bring more. At 8 you make a decision. You pull the mattress off the bed frame and drag it into the kitchen, closer to the stove. You gather every blanket, every quilt, every piece of clothing that might provide warmth. You layer them on the mattress. The children are confused but too tired to question it. You pile all 3 of them onto the mattress, then add yourself to the pile. Bodies pressed together, shared warmth. It's how your grandmother survived winters in Bavaria, and it's how you're going to survive this. Greta clings to you. The boys curl around each other like puppies. You pull the quilts up over all 4 of you, creating a cocoon of body heat and wool in desperation. The wind screams outside. The walls creak. Somewhere down the hall, a baby is crying. But here, under the blankets, with your children's breath warm against your neck, you wait. The stove crackles. The coal burns low. The longest night of your life is just beginning. Outside across the northeastern United States, the temperature is still dropping. It will reach 6 degrees by morning. The wind is gusting to 80. And snowdrifts are already 10 ft high in some places and growing. Over 400 people will die in this storm. Dozens of them will freeze within steps of their own homes, unable to find their doors in the blinding white. Others will die trapped in train cars, on boats, in the streets. A senator named Roscoe Conkling will make the fatal decision to walk from Wall Street to Madison Square and die weeks later from the exposure. But Helena Muller doesn't know any of this yet. She doesn't know that 15,000 people are stranded on the elevated trains right now, trapped in freezing cars that stopped moving hours ago. She doesn't know that her husband Friedrich is one of them. All she knows is that her children are warm for now, that she has maybe 12 hours of coal left if she's careful, that the storm is getting worse, and that somewhere in the howling darkness outside, her husband is trying to get home. Sleep doesn't come easy that night. Every gust of wind sounds like a warning. Every creak of the building sounds like it might be the whole structure coming apart. But exhaustion eventually wins, and Helena Muller drifts into an uneasy rest with her children piled around her like small furnaces. Not like your bed right now, though. Soft and safe and warm. Nothing trying to kill you, just the comfortable weight of your blankets. The gentle darkness of your room. The knowledge that you'll wake up to a world that isn't trying to freeze you solid. The Muller family doesn't have that luxury, but they have each other. 4 hearts beating together on a horsehair mattress in a tenement kitchen. 4 bodies sharing whatever warmth they can generate. 4 people doing what humans have done since the beginning of time. Surviving together. The storm rages on. The night stretches long, and somewhere out there, Friedrich Mueller is gripping the sides of a frozen elevated train car, waiting for morning, hoping his family is safe. He has no idea that the real fight is just beginning. All right, that's a good chunk. Let me know when you're ready for the next part. Friedrich Mueller can't feel his feet anymore. He's been standing in this elevated train car for 11 hours. 11 hours since the train ground to a halt somewhere around 53rd Street, the wheels spinning uselessly on tracks coated with ice. 11 hours since the conductor announced they'd be moving again any minute. That was a lie, and everyone knew it was a lie. But they believed it anyway because the alternative was too terrifying to consider. There are maybe 40 people crammed into this car, men mostly heading home from work when the storm hit. A few women, one elderly man in the corner who stopped talking about 3 hours ago and now just stares at the frosted window with glassy eyes. Friedrich has been watching him. He keeps watching to make sure the man's chest is still moving. The car has no heat. Whatever warmth existed when they first stopped has long since bled out through the thin wooden walls. Snow is piled against the windows until they're almost completely blocked. The only light comes from a single oil lamp that someone thought to bring, and it's burning low. Friedrich stamps his feet. Nothing. He wiggles his toes inside his boots. Can't tell if they're moving or not. Frostbite starts slow,